You're listening to Healthcare Now Radio. Stand by for This Just In, the latest in healthcare innovation and technology trends with your HIT advisor, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these half-hour segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in corporate strategy, innovation, public policy, and entrepreneurialism. As always, we're broadcasting from This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 151st episode, we have a special guest, Kevin Thompson, CEO of a hot new company, Treadstone Capital. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So I'm actually very excited about the show. But before we dive in, give everybody kind of a little bit of a background because our partnership has been circuitous here. But we first met through a mutual friend, Andrew Dennis, here in Atlanta. He put a dinner together earlier this year and set us across from each other. And literally, the moment you began to describe your business and how you operated your business, it was just it was phenomenal. It's one of the best probably initial success stories that I have heard in a very long time. And a lot of what you are deploying with your new business is what I had learned over the past 20 years. And you're pretty close to my age, so you've learned a lot through your years as well. But
right.
But all the best practices that you're deploying and how you're starting your going through implementing processes and building those processes and leading through best practices and focus on customer support and a focus on culture. Those are all best practices and strategies that I've had to deploy. I've had to learn through the years of hard knocks and building businesses and building companies, but then also reaping the fruits of that disciplined labor. And so when you are going through, and I don't want to steal all of your thunder, but listening to you talk on how you are building your business, I just got really excited. So I'm really excited about this show. I've never done a show quite like this before, so I'm excited for it.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. That's flattering stuff.
Well, and also I think to pump you up more, and certainly in full disclosure for my audience, I recently invested in Treadstone Capital in Kevin's company. Because again, and this is my first investment in my life outside of healthcare and healthcare IT. So I think that says a lot there. And again, I probably would caution everybody to not invest outside of your comfort zone. But just listening to you that night, meeting up with you and your partner, Jason Brooks, afterwards a couple of times, bringing a couple of my angel investor friends for them to kind of kick the tires. Everybody just signed off and just said, hey, these guys know what they're doing. This business looks pretty solid. It's in the AR factoring sector, so again, very different from healthcare. But what's really cool is you are applicable to other markets as well, and where you're building through best practices, you are applicable to several industries. So, and it's scalable, and so very, very cool. But I don't want to give too much away. I'm very excited to dive in because this show is going to be focused on business best practices, not really about AR factoring, because what you talk about and how you're building your business. It's applicable to any business, any vertical, any sector, anything that you want to build, because you're just talking about fundamental best practices on how to start and build your company and achieve your goals on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very cool. All right. And I do want to hopefully save a few minutes to talk about Andrew, but I'll give him a quick plug only because he's the best real estate agent I've ever come across in my life. He's here in Atlanta. He's recently sold me a couple of investment properties. I believe he sold you your house, right? Recently?
He did. He did a very excellent job. The level of detail and the things that he did out of the scope of a normal realtor's work was certainly appreciated.
Yeah, I think we could actually do a show, and maybe I will do a show with him just individually, just because the amount of attention he gives to a customer, or how far he goes above and beyond the call of duty on what you would expect from an agent, even at the highest levels, he exceeds them. I mean, I saw him carrying literally a a washing machine back into a house that needed to go in the house last week. He had a picture of it. The guy literally does whatever the customer needs, so far above and beyond. And even before I was a customer of his, he was, offering to help with everything. He's the most generous, giving soul that I've come across in a very long time. So props to Andrew and his real estate business here in Georgia. But let's dive over to you, Kevin. So tell us, before we dive into what some of your corporate best practices and why I'm so excited about the show, tell us a little bit about you, where'd you grow up, college, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up in South Alabama. My dad was a commercial fisherman. We're a very blue-collar, hardworking family, and I spent a lot of summers working with him, and I quickly learned that that was not the life for me, respectfully speaking. So after high school, went to college, and I wanted to go to Auburn University to study engineering. So I did, but it turns out that I would never use my background in software. I actually ventured into the world of sales. I really thought that was, a good fit for me. I wanted to interface with people, not just a computer. So it kind of took me there.
Yeah. So first of all, just for the record, you are an Alabama fan, correct? Not Auburn.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
This show's forever. This is an open show. Whatever we can talk about anything. It's great.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic. So I guess it's not as ironic that I'd never used my software background. It's ironic that I grew up a huge Alabama fan and ended up at Auburn. But
right.
My family was very happy for me to be in school and accomplishing something. So
I understand. Well, actually, but we have a similar background story in a way. My family's manufacturing and roofing, and just manufacturing tons of different products. And I did the job for, I think, one summer, and I knew manufacturing was not for me. Nothing against manufacturing. It served my family phenomenally for 160 years and still cranking, and it's all great. But I just was very fortunate that I got steered more into the corporate world, and then got a great job out of college and just kind of worked my butt off since then. But I also went to the military and a lot of other things to kind of, be a proving ground for me and for what I had to accomplish. But we're
right.
similar backgrounds in that regard. But how'd you start with the Treadstone idea? Because again, it's really out of my purview, as I mentioned, AR factoring. But give 10 seconds on what Treadstone does, but also where the idea come from.
Right. So we are, and we purchase accounts receivables. We help provide small businesses with working cash flow, capital, so they can continue to help grow their business. And how I came into this is I have a good friend that was working in the factoring business, and I was sitting with him. Actually, I was doing his life insurance at the time, and we struck up a conversation. He was telling me about factoring, and I kept listening to him, and I understood that he was very knowledgeable about the space. But what I also picked up was he was looking maybe for something more at this point in his life, maybe seeking other opportunities. So the wheels in my head just started turning. So after he left, I gathered some information. I did my own due diligence. And I could not find a reason why we shouldn't do this. So the next time I met with him, I pitched him on the idea of starting a business because, I had started my own business just 3 years before, and I'd never been more happy working for myself. So we talked through what that meant to start a business and what we needed. And after 6-8 months of planning and preparation, we launched the company. I ended up selling the insurance business that I just started 3 years prior to help kickstart the company in regards to capital. He dug deep and provided some resources as well. And we also did a small investor round. And then we're kind of off to the races.
Very cool. So when I sat across from you at that dinner, you literally rattled off, you didn't realize what you're doing, but talking about, 10 to 15, what I knew to be best practices on how to be successful. So how, what best practices at a highlight did you create and deploy to start your company off on the right footing? Because I want to kind of walk through these in segments, because this show is going to be heavily focused on, say 15 to 20 best practices that you deployed to get to where you are right now in building your business. But let's start off a little bit. How'd you, what did you deploy to create and deploy your business to start off with?
Right. Well, initially and continuously, it was important for us to create a smart, fun culture, create a workplace where people wanted to learn and people wanted to improve every day, a place where people wanted to be part of building something great as well. So we tried to hire in line with our vision. We wanted to get the right collection of people in here, in order to build that culture. And something about culture is it just doesn't happen. Right. It's something that you have to proactively work at. You have to create it. So that was something initially right from the start that, we were angling for.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that, at that dinner, that immediately made me think back to Greenway. We worked so hard on the culture, and you have control of your culture to an extent, but it's going to be who you are. It's going to be your leadership skills, your leadership style. That's all going to emit in your culture. And thankfully, Correct. I had phenomenal partners at Greenway, and I think we were ultimately extremely successful because of our culture, because with everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. Everybody cared. They didn't go to work because they had to. They went to work because they wanted to. And that is a huge difference and differentiator, I feel, in the market and on how you can be successful, is, more quickly than the other way. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's awesome. So before we dive into all the good stuff, because I know you're going to cover a lot of good best practices, let's talk about some of the mistakes that you made in your early stages, because we all do it. If you've been an entrepreneur, I think 20 to 30% of my listeners are entrepreneurs in some capacity. We all have made mistakes in the past, but what were some of the ones that you specifically made?
Yeah, a couple of those come to mind. Initially, we were trying to partner with different businesses to gain referrals. I mean, referrals are great, but we were going after the wrong type of businesses. What we figured out is, we're going after these businesses and they're like, yeah, hey, we'll send you referrals for $100. And what happens to that guy? When the next company offers him $150, he's gone. Yeah. But also they didn't really have the customer, best interest in mind. Like for us, we learned that our vision in regards to the customer has to align. Our perspectives need to be the same. It's not how much you can make off of each individual customer. It's about doing right by them and truly trying to make them successful. So once we found those type of partners, it really worked well for us. And those are long-term partnerships. Those aren't sold to the highest bidder. So I would say that was one mistake that we made. The other was we were experimenting and trying to self-deliver other ancillary services that our guys could use. But what we found is we were spreading ourselves too thin. So we determined that it's better if we just focus on what we're really good at and become great at that. And then later, when the timing is right, we can bring something else on, and it was better to partner with people who could deliver those services if we found the right partner. So those are two things where we made mistakes, but we quickly learned from that and redirected our efforts.
Yeah, see, and again, I think we touched a little bit on this also during our dinner, is these are two things that are, again, all industries can learn from this. The very first one is I certainly did this. We didn't take at Greenway, we didn't take on, and that was my last big healthcare venture and my last big healthcare exit, I should say, as well. So that's why I focused a lot back on that, because I was there for 12 years and that's a big significant aspect of my life. But we worked very hard to get the right customer and the right referral stream. It was not about every customer out there. We wanted to find the ones who are forward thinking, we're ready for change, ready to navigate the future of healthcare using technology. There's a mindset, a leadership aspect that we wanted in each of our customers. And so finding those are the ones that we wanted. It wasn't about getting every customer. We wanted those because those tend to be the best fit to our culture. So having your customer fit your culture, very important. Certainly when you're trying to build a $1 billion business. And then also the second part of not spreading yourself too thin and focus. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs, they just want to do everything. They want to solve every problem and do everything. And that's good because, that's where your heart is. It also, you feel you can probably make tons of money because I see all these revenue streams, but jack of all trades, master of none. It's much better to focus. And that was something that we had to learn also is, we were at Greenway focused on the ambulatory space. Well, the hospital space was this really large space, 3x what the ambulatory space was. But you know what? We did really, really well at the ambulatory space. And we did really, really well to 3 doctor groups all the way to 15 doctor groups. And so that's what we focused for 10 years. We made a bunch of money doing it, but we were the very best in that market space. And that's what we wanted in the industry. And so focusing is critically important, not trying to do everything and be all things to everybody. So,
right.
Very cool. Now let's dive over to some of the best practices. So, because also I love about, motivating teams. So what best practices and strategies have you deployed to motivate and lead your team successfully through your first year of business? Because now you're in your second year. So what have you done in the first year?
Right. So got a little list here, so feel free to stop me and dive in. But as a baseline, we wanted to make sure that we provided proper benefits and incentives so we could keep our staff around long term. We wanted to recognize and reward effort. Everyone needs a little pat on the back, or if someone's doing something great, we wanted to make sure that they knew it. We meet regularly to promote idea sharing collectively and individually. We do not micromanage. I think it restricts the growth and the evolution of your staff.
Demotivates them as well.
Yeah, correct, 100%. I've been in jobs where that happened, so I've learned things over time, and we've tried to deploy some of the things that I've learned being on the other side of it into our business. I was very fortunate to work for some really great people, around some great people, under some great people, so I took away a lot. Another thing we do is we set very clear expectations. We hold everybody equally accountable, and we include ourselves in that, Justin. We don't just hold our staff accountable. My business partner now, we hold each other accountable in the same manner. We lead by example, and we follow through on everything. If we say, hey, salesperson B, next month I'm going to buy you 2 monitors, dual monitors or whatever, whether big or small, we just continue to do what we say. Or if we say, hey, we're going to evaluate you within 90 days. And if you're exceeding, our expectations, we're going to give you that raise early, and if 30 days comes and they are, we do that. So we hold our word, which is very important. Here, if people make mistakes or errors, we try to use that as a learning or a teaching moment. We don't criticize. So we don't want to create an atmosphere where people are so scared to make mistakes and they work slow, So we just use those opportunities to learn. Other things we do is we celebrate the wins and milestones with our staff, and down to the little things. We also recognize and celebrate birthdays. We're a small company now, but what we never really want to lose is a lot of those things that I just named. Once we get so big, we still want to continue to recognize and be close to our staff and things of that nature. So I never want to lose those things, no matter how big we get. It's very important to me and my partner that those things stay intact.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I invested in your company. I joined your board, and even walking out of the board meeting last week, I see how you guys deploy, these types of strategies, and even how you employ them amongst yourselves, and how, even our conversations afterwards, you ran a great board meeting, certainly for being your first one that you've officially done. But you guys did a great job, and I saw a lot of this emitting through your own behavior in your mind and what you instill in your employees. So it's just kind of cool how you guys deploy this. So what best practices have evolved from your first year into your second year? What's changed?
Yeah, right. So we continuously work on our processes. We know that we can always do better. We just don't settle like, hey, we have our processes in place. We try to improve there, always get better. What we also did is we reached out to others for idea sharing, and we actually gained a mentor through that, which is very helpful. We really wanted to get help in areas where we felt inadequate. So we also, another thing we did with our staff, we started utilizing daily and monthly audits to help reduce errors. Between the audit data and the production reports that we were running, we're actually able to create an efficiency rating for each staff member. And we're really just trying to promote a healthy competition, goal attainment type atmosphere. We wanted it to have a positive effect, and that's how we kind of have pitched it and verbalized it to our staff. Other things we've done is we've set very clear expectations. We've been able to get better at predicting and forecasting. So we've created very clear expectations for each person. We've communicated more to our staff about what our vision is, what our brand is, and it's kind of become theirs as well.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I love what you've been able to do with those daily and monthly audit reports, and then also efficiency ratings to really keep everybody transparently knowing where they are and where they need to get to. So very, very cool. So we're actually running through some good time here, but what top 10 best practices do you feel would benefit my audience the most and that you lean on every day? Because this is what you'll probably write a book on here soon, but go ahead and cover some of those items as best practices.
Yes, we can collaborate on that. Some of the things I may have already mentioned, so I won't go too deep into those, so forgive me for that. Again, you have to proactively work to create your culture and hire to it, and it starts from the top, as you mentioned, with yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to identify your weaknesses and truly be honest with yourself, because once you do, you can go find the pieces that complement you, whether it's staff, whether it's a partner or a mentor. Seek guidance, collaborate with others. Don't find yourself on an island because you don't know what you don't know, and then you never know what you're going to learn from speaking to someone, right? So
true. Again,
I touched on earlier, recognize and reward the effort. You got to incent your staff. Meet regularly with your staff. Remain accessible. Remain visible. They see us as we are working with them, right? Don't micromanage, criticize, stunts their growth, as we mentioned earlier. Provide clear processes for people. Create detailed work manuals so a guy off the street could walk in and do the job. I know I'm reaching a little bit, but you kind of know where I'm going with that. Just very detail oriented. Lead by example. It was important to me when I started this that I learned every position in the company. I could do every job. It helps me relate to my staff, and it helps me understand where they are. I mean, some of these jobs are really hard, and I have a lot of respect, for account managers. It's not an easy job. Another thing that is really big and very, very important to us is always keep your customers' best interests in mind. Don't serve yours. Help them be as successful as possible, and they will pay dividends for much longer versus trying to get a short-term, quick pop off your customers. Those are probably the top 10. We could go on, but we only have so much time, so I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, no, that was excellent, because like I said, this show is relevant to every sector. I focus most of my shows on healthcare, and 80% of my listeners are in the healthcare sector. But everything you just walked through is a best practice and strategy for building a business in healthcare, transportation, education. I don't care what sector you're in. Logistics, it's AR factoring, financial. it
certainly applies across a lot of platforms.
Yeah. So I was really excited about this show. We were able to put it together and pull it off. And what's really cool is not only do you speak to this, but you live and breathe this every single day. And like I said, I've become personally friends with you. I work with you now just through the board of Treadstone, and so it's really cool to see how you've employed all of this in practice and the success that you're driving from it. Your company, for only being a little over a year old, you guys are doing really, really well. You're very profitable, and there's not too many businesses that, how many months you've been in business now? Is it 18, 17?
We're 18 months going on 19, and to your point, I guess we're kind of taking our advice because we reached out to you. We noticed that, there was a void that you could fill, and your wisdom has been much appreciated, and certainly we've benefited from it a fair amount so far.
Thank you. Yeah, no. So I'm very happy, but in the closing couple of seconds here, I got about 30 seconds before I got to do my outro. I always like to ask this question of my guests. What is your favorite place to get or be inspired?
That's a good question. And sometimes I can take information or inspiration from the oddest, weird places, but honestly, my family my girlfriend and my friends really inspire me the most. I'm just very grateful to have such good people in my life supporting my ideas and my dreams. My significant other has certainly provided a lot of support for me, which is very important to entrepreneurs. They have to be very understanding because you put a lot of time and effort, into your business, and you got to have that support. So
that's a fantastic answer, dude, because actually I feel the exact same way. I mean, my wife has put up with a lot over the past 12 years of marriage and me building a couple of businesses and then even, my friends, I would say 40% of my friends are entrepreneurs, maybe 50% are entrepreneurs and or own or started their own companies. And so, I have tough days, but then I can call them and lean on them and you, for that matter, as well. So very, very cool. Well, Kevin,
awesome.
True pleasure, my friend, to have you on the show today. I want to have you back in the future, continue on with your best practices. I know this is going to be a highly rated show. You'll probably get over 10,000, 15,000 hits on this. So thank you very much for joining us today. And certainly thank you very much to everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. And as always, you can listen to us weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific to hear our latest shows. You can always track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio so you can respond to your comments from the show. If you missed any of this episode or want to hear more, all of my shows are also posted on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, and TuneIn. You also can check out the new website that we just launched at justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a terrific week.